Did you think I forgot you? Sorry, guys, I got a little distracted there for a moment. Give me about 30 seconds here, guys. I got one more thing I got to take care of, and I'll be ready to go. Got the iron, got the pig iron. Got charcoal.
Sorry, I can't do it, sir.
All right. So let's see. Last time we got our obsidian caster working. We poorly demonstrated how to use a ice drop to make a well. Emphasis on poorly demonstrated. Generated an enormous amount of flux stone to use for our guys. Still haven't managed to catch a spider. And we'll rebait our traps and try to get lucky again because we're starting to get some web out front.
No.
We're going to turn the tame one loose with the others.
Can't do that there.
If nothing else, we may get breeding. We can hope, right?
Sorry, sir, I can't do it.
No, 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 no. No. Yes, yes. I see it all now. It's so beautiful. Can't do it.
So the only solution to keeping your dwarves from drinking and eating out of your jail cells
The dwarf has claimed a workshop.
is to forbid them or stick them so far away that they won't path to them. You'd think designating the room as a jail cell would work, but basically we're going to have to lock them out.
Wow. Did you see what I did with this? I'm gonna hang on to this.
So add that to the list. Dwarves eat from the jail cells instead of from the dining room. Actually, I think we're just about ready. I mean, realistically, the only thing I haven't demonstrated here is the dodging trap. We're making steel. We're slowly producing steel items. It's just going to take an age and a half because we're having to melt everything down to get there. Metal bars, leather's probably our issue here. Bones. Probably needs multiple bones. Okay. Make sure we don't have anything that needs to be killed. And we'll cull ourselves a couple of pigs. Which should get us the leather. I'm fairly sure that's what we're short on, because I'm pretty sure we've got the bones. Maybe not. Tanned hides, none. Yep, there we are right there.
Sir, you can't do that there.
Now we're kind of at the mercy of our butchers. There we go. Come on, splat the oinkers. Ugh. All right, we finally caught one. Now I gotta figure out how to get the darn thing out of the cage in the right place. Huh. I'm not sure how you get him out of the cage while we're on the subject. I'm guessing this is how we get them out of the cage. We're going to want to disable dumping on anything else at the time. Yeah, but I wonder if this guide is going to cover... Yeah, it's how to get them out, but it's not for... Yeah, this is for immediately pitting animals and things in regular cages, and that would work, but that's not what we've got here. What we've got here is stuff in an animal trap that we don't want to tame, but we also don't want to simply release. We want it placed in a specific area. I think what we're going to end up having to do is we're going to have to go down here to where the clothing area is, go up one floor, or where the weaving area is here, go up one floor, cut into the wall enough to get a hole over the top of this, create a dump zone there that will leave inactive until we're ready to dump all of these guys at once. Put a hatch over it. Nobody will climb down because there's no walls attached to the edge. Then we can order the live cave spiders dumped en masse when we get, say, 5 or 10 of them. At that point, they'll land in the room below, which should be harmless, which I've double locked with cat-proof doors. And so I think that's going to be our solution. All right, that's 2. Bonus. Keep them coming. Huh. Well, I guess 2 of those guys aren't quite as incapacitated as they appear. Nice. Okay, well.
Oh, no way.
Definitely vision lost. Okay, then. Blind sparring dwarf is blind sparring. Maybe they don't have to see.
Sorry, sir, I can't do it.
Okay, a couple bridges to lock people in. Bridge here to cut off the wagon path, or here to cut off the wagon path. I think I like it better over here.
It won't work.
So we need at least 4 bridges here. One upstairs here to close access to the entrance entirely. Though we could ignore that one and use just a combination of these two. But I like having a single access in case I need to open all of these in order to allow repairs or cleanup or whatever. That way it's separate from controlling access into the fortress is controlling access into the trap zone. So likewise here is we control who slowly getting the wheelbarrows. We would have made these out of wood a long time ago in a normal environment. Kind of want to know where he's taking those. Yeah. I forgot about our little pit above the barracks. Wait a sec. Wait. Apparently we got a dwarf in a cage that's been sitting there for God only knows how long. He's probably dead on a doornail.
It won't work.
Ugh, you're gonna tell me we don't get him out of the cage, which is by dumping the cage,
No, I
aren't you?
can't do it. Why do you think I can do this? No.
Ugh, I thought there was a way to do it for dwarves, but you can't. You can only do it by building them. Ugh. think that's the right one, but we can try it.
It won't work. I can't do it.
Of course, I don't use animal traps very often, and miasma would be part of the reason, and here's an example. We can't really replace that. Because it's part of the building. Can mark it for dumping. I don't think they'll take it. Well, that's what I thought. Can't pit the dwarf. I think we only have one masterwork fungi wood cage.
No. stupid nose. No.
And in addition to building the cage, the only way to open the cage is to build a lever to attach it, so we get to go through that jump too.
No. I said no.
To go in this cage, he's going to starve to death about 3 feet from it.
Sorry, sir, I can't do it. Sir, a baby's been born.
Oh, that's just great. Another mouth to feed. It won't work.
Hey, welcome aboard. Three more floors. Now, in reality, you don't have to go anywhere near this deep. 15 floors, 20 floors is likely to cause an enemy to explode. 33 is pure overkill. But God damn it if it's not symbolic. Well, when you're me, you've done this a little while. Someone asked me, and I did some calculation. At roughly 3 hours a night, ballpark, from 8 to 11, and we've done this for 23 days, then as of tonight, I will have done 69 hours of stream since I began the event. Roughly. That's probably a little low. There's been several times we've run over, and it's more than made up for the occasional time that I've done it short.
No, I can't do it.
I can't do it. I just can't. Shatter, you can't do that there.
No, I've got a staircase right there in the center. It's a little easier to see if I go up a few floors. Where they're accessing it from the dodge platform. They walk out along the dodge platform and then use the staircase to go down. And it's 30 floors by the time we're done. Ending on floor negative 33. Yeah, I'm thinking after we finish this up, like I said, we're going to try and run a couple goblins through it, and then it's really time to start a new fort. We've been at this one for a while now. It's very mature. Something with a different tile set and maybe with a smaller footprint to minimize our pathfinding a little more. The wife wants zombies, and if I can get zombies in a red sand desert, I'm going for it. I feel like some kind of porn actress. I just keep wanting to whisper, deeper. So, evil biomes are one of those things I look at and go, why? Why would you do that? It's possible to dig in and survive in an evil biome, technically, but you're talking about a place that potentially has rain that turns your dwarves into zombies, and your livestock comes back from the dead if you butcher it. Why would you embark there? Why would you do this? It makes no rational sense. If you want to do it for a challenge run, it's possible. Wagon, drop your wagon, floor it over, wall in. You're safe. Your 7 dwarves will survive forever, walled in. I promise. As long as you can keep them happy, they will survive. Migrants can be screened in with an airlock, admitted on a case-by-case basis, or just stranded outside to either go nuts or fight off the hordes of undead. It's the constantly reanimating wildlife that bothers me. It's one of those things where if you didn't have a real pressing reason to have a fortress in a place, you never would put it there. It's a little like saying we want to have a fortress to keep an eye on our... We want to have a nice big fortress to keep an eye on our elven enemies, so we're going to build it right in the middle of the elven capital. You think they'll notice? They might. They might. Savage is one thing. I got no problems with a savage embark, but evil just one of those things where I look at it and go, why would you want to? I'm talking about from the perspective of your dwarves, obviously. For a challenge, there's obviously a reason to do it if you're looking for a challenge. That moment when you forget that you haven't unpaused it and you're waiting on the miners to get here and they're just not coming. It's not just that, it feels like an appropriate balance. The animal men try to steal from you. The animals are usually bigger and scarier. But it's not out of control. It feels reasonable. I can understand why dwarves might have a fortress built in a more savage area. Somebody's got to civilize it.
It won't work.
But with the way evil works in the current game, with no way to sanctify it or clean it out, nah, just don't understand why anybody would. I mean, so as an interesting thought experiment, was Mordor cursed
Sir, I hate saying no to you.
because
no.
Sauron ran it into the ground, or because of some inherent property of the area itself? If it's because the misbehaving Valar has run it into the ground, well, theoretically then, removing him should clear it up. Maybe not immediately, but if, you know.
Ugh, no way.
One piece of basalt to the rescue. And we'll have to get a little creative here below, because if we're not careful, we'll cave ourselves in again. When we cut this floor out, we'll have to do it gently.
No, 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 no. No.
Floor 3 to floor 36. 33 days of Dwarf, 33 Z levels of drop. And I wouldn't turn Fast Dwarf on, but I kind of want to get this over with so we can get onto a new fort.
Ugh, no way. Sir, I hate saying no to you, but no. No, 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 no. No!
Let's let them do those. And we've got to be a little careful about how we dig this out, because if we're not, we'll end up with holes our dwarves fall into. Now, what I really wish I had at this very moment, there's no real way to do that I'm aware of, is to toggle off text will be text, or the multi-level display for just a second. Good news is it's easy to tell where I've dug out because the pile of rocks from the floor above will fall down through it and end up here.
No, 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 no. No!
But basically we're going to go back and dig out all of this hallway underneath the tunnel so that we're digging only the wall edges.
Och, the mandate's over.
To avoid a cave-in by mining out something without support underneath it. So we got to be careful not to dig out any areas with a space in the middle, basically, is what we're avoiding here.
No. I said no.
It's okay to dig them out eventually, we just can't dig them all out at once. That should fix that problem. Might as well do it on both sides. Now, the good news is, because of this mine tunnel intersecting, the miners have to go a lot shorter distance to get to the mine.
I can't do that there.
So we know this is the bottom limit because that's where the rest of the pit was going to be, so that's covered. We know this is the eastern limit. We can double check by making sure that we're on the far right hand side of the pit here, and we are. And then this is the northern limit. And we need to make sure that every tunnel space inside that has been dug out. And it looks like everything has at this point. We've got blocks, or we've got rocks sitting on top of everything. So, now we can designate the rest of the floor. Not sure how they managed to get all of this cut apart except that piece, and then somehow they. I'll bet they crossed a cave, and we didn't realize that we crossed it over there. Ah, I see. That's what happened. Wow, and no cave-ins. That was fortunate. Okay.
Yes, I'll do it, but no, it won't work.
And that should mine everything out. Without any unsupported bits. Now we've got to kind of cut the wall here because we touched a mine shaft that we didn't mine out carefully like we did over here. Didn't realize the corner winged it, so we'll just basically cut the wall and just go around and dig that part out, and down we'll go. If something happens to land here, well, it's dead anyway. Okay, and now we're down to 35, and 36 is where we were ending. And now we'll get them to dig that out.
Why do you think I can do this?
Okay, and now we've arrived at the bottom. So let's talk about what we want for the bottom. Well, first off, we're going to need an access.
Did you see what I did with this
It's
thing?
cute that we were able to get there from the mine shafts, but realistically, I plan to seal this area up. That's not going to be a way into our fort long term. And with Fast Dwarf on, it's cute to let them run super speed around the map, and therefore make this long travel time down the staircase, 30-some floors, relatively conveniently. But the problem is that's not really how the fort should be run normally. So, what I'd recommend doing at this point is we'll cut an access in. We'll set a bridge that will close it up. And that will allow dwarves to get into this area easily when it's peaceful, or to clean up after a siege, and then immediately button it up in the event of a siege. Done. At that point, this area becomes just basically a giant collection area. Right now, it's just stone and ore, but over the long haul, there'll be body parts and bone and, whatever explodes out of whatever falls in. Things that fall that distance, yeah, pulp is charitable. Gotta remember not to clear the staircase. Okay. At that point, we can clear all the ramps because they serve us no function at this point. Just random debris from the mining. And we can cut in our access. Now, one thing I'd also suggest at this point, we'll probably do this, is we'll go down a floor with a staircase and a dump zone. That will allow us to create a dump for any goblin parts or things we want to pull in quickly. We can simply dump them and then retrieve them later. And we don't need that ramp there. Now, in order to encourage the dwarves not to path through this area in order to climb up, we will set a designation traffic restricted area just on the one square. Actually, we'll put it on the square above that because we don't want dwarves to climb. The climbing is what we're trying to avoid here. So that should avoid dwarves pathing through the space, which is kind of what we hope to avoid. Now, at this point, our fast dwarves have access to come straight in from what is a quick shot from our masonry workshop, our forges. Everything is right off the central staircase, of course, so this is a quick jaunt. Now we need to get the bridge up quickly, so we'll immediately start on that. Somebody should come around and do architecture on it momentarily. I think everybody has architecture. Somebody tasked the item that was on it. Now we can mason, and somebody's working on it, and somebody was standing on it, so it kind of got suspended.
No, I can't do it.
Okay, and now it's done. So we'll slap in a lever, and we'll attach it to that bridge, and then we can close it in order to prevent access during the siege. Yeah, unfortunately, the amount of tooth pickup is just insane.
I can't do it.
Toady needs to implement bins for corpse parts and body parts.
No. Ugh, did you see what I did with this thing?
Just get on with it. Or allow dwarves to carry up to their inventory in terms of items. There's a RimWorld mod that demonstrates this phenomenon as well. The default behavior is to pick up one item and return it to a stockpile, kind of like Dwarf Fortress. You can pick up to a certain, like 75. But that's basically the handheld items. The pawns have a carried inventory as well that they can use, but they don't. So theoretically, they could carry stuff on their back, basically, a maximum carry weight kind of inventory. There are no bins or containers to pick stuff up in, so there's no way to apply the carry weight inventory. Dwarves are much the same way. When they have minecart or wheelbarrows, they're better about it. They move stone, at a reasonable pace. And okay, we probably have this job done now because fast dwarf. Okay, so now that's good. Now let's check our entrance again. Let's see how we're doing on the traps. They look like they're getting done. Good, good. See, you say he reduced it, but I think we finally have cleaned up all the teeth.
Sorry, I can't do it, sir. It won't work. I can't do that there. I can't do it. Sorry, I can't do it, sir. It won't work.
Dude who went crazy, because we didn't realize he was caged, is starving.
Ugh, I won't
We
do
just
it.
mistook him for one of these poor souls in our hospital, who miraculously, despite having lost all their vision, appeared to be up and mobile. Don't ask me how. Don't worry, bones grow back.
I just can't.
Oh, say don't. So many collection jobs to be done. At this point, they have exhausted what hematite has been brought in. We're simply not bringing it in fast enough in terms of ore to keep the smelters occupied. Fast Dwarf in action. So the solution is to jump back up to this floor and take a look around, because I made some shafts specifically to... We've got plenty. They just haven't moved it in yet. Okay. And this is pretty much the closest place. But the Masons will keep these guys just absolutely floored, running back and forth for boulders.
I can't do that there.
There's a new baby! Quick, get him a bottle of ale!
Yeah, unfortunately, see, as far as the puke star went, we would have lost that when the Forgotten Beast with the deadly dust attacked in order to clean our guys off. Eh. Hey guys, give me a second here. I'm going to step away for just a moment.
I can't do it!
Sorry, sir, I can't do it.
can't do it.
Oh! Somebody got bridged.
Sorry, sir, I can't do it.
No. I said no.
Oh. That's bad.
No. Try to keep.
This might be bad.
It won't work. I can't do it. No. Oh, I won't do it. No. This item now has a name.
Oh, he can't get in either. He's in the water. In Cavern 2, which we don't have open either. So not a problem. Welcome aboard, Savenge. There's a giant polar bear. If you leave it unattended, it will basically eventually pick off the dogs because they can't damage an animal that size well enough. It will kill them. I must have missed one in the list. No! Where's the third uninvited? That's the entire list. And then somebody hit it with a bolt and it died. And then they all went to the hospital because deadly dust is usually really bad. And the fact that they bled all the way there isn't a good sign either. Completely numb, winded, cannot breathe, motor nerve damage. Yeah, this is some kind of neurological thing. It's causing paralysis in the head, neck, lower body. This is some sort of nervous tissue destruction thing. None of these guys are likely to survive. I said that last time, but I wasn't expecting them to keep their vision. Or function like they kept their vision, I guess I should say. We'll see. Paralysis usually means they're going to suffocate. Well, Savenge, you're in luck. We're getting ready to start a new fortress here before very much longer. Yeah, pretty much everybody who fought it head on is going to be croaked. The first sign something was very badly wrong is that trail of blood they left from way downstairs where it happened all the way up here to the hospital, and then straight into beds. That's probably the guy we crushed.
No, I can't do it. Why do you think I can do this?
Well, to be fair, that's all you're going to see at first because you're not going to grasp immediately what you're looking at. But here's what's going on. There's a big pile of dwarves right now. About 150 of them inhabit this fort. They're running around doing their lives, and I mean everything from dying in the military to excavation to making bedrooms, food, traps,
I can't do it.
trade. Theoretically, we can send them out and have them raid other sites. This is in a world where after you lose your first fort or your second fort or your 100th fort, there's more of the deaths. You can build more forts in the same world. You can reclaim old forts after you've lost them. You can embark as an adventurer in the world where you had your forts, visit them, pillage the goodies that you left behind for yourself. It's a fantastically deep and complex game. It is incredibly modifiable and actually one of the deeper games I've played really in my life as far as colony builders go. There are things I've played more complex than this. Most of them I don't find very much fun. So when we start out with a new fort, I'm going to kind of be on the same footing as you are, because the reality is when I start the new fort, I'm going to do it with a new tile set. And what we were really looking to do, and what we basically have completed at this point, although we haven't demonstrated it on stream here, is this giant blue thing here that you see on the left is a giant pit with some boulders at the bottom here, rock boulders that we've excavated. We haven't picked them up and used them for anything yet. So this big pile of rock where we've excavated the floors above this. And this giant pit has a beam that goes across it with a staircase going up and down. That X is a staircase. There, okay. So this top beam is covered with traps, with the intent being we lure creatures into our little lair here, lure them out across the beam. One of two things happens. The trap kills them, in which case the parts rain down in the pit. The bits rain down, problem solved. Maybe the trap breaks, but we've got a lot of traps. The second thing that happens is the trap doesn't hit anything because they dodge. They get completely out of the way. The problem is that when they're standing here on the beam, there are only 2 good spots to dodge. There are 6 bad ones. That's not favorable odds. If they dodge the wrong way, they dodge into open space. It's a 33 floor drop to the bottom of the pit. Creatures falling from this height will pretty much explode on impact. It's a long, long, long way down. It depends, Savenge. I don't know what your experience with colony builders is. The base game right out of the box is actually ASCII if you're familiar with old school roguelikes. This is the same game, it's just got a tile set overlaid over it. So instead of alphanumeric symbols to represent everything from walls to dwarves, I have cute little sprites and pictures because that's intelligible to my Nintendo era brain or my Atari era brain. If you're curious, we're going to run through the basics and I'll do it at a fairly good clip, but if you have any questions when I start the new fort, in fact, why are we talking about it? Why don't we do it? Does anybody actually want to see this pit work? Am I going to have to actually stream until we get goblins to run through it once, or are we good with this? Because I'm happy to start the new fort now. I've been teasing it for like 3 years, waiting on the dwarves to get done. I've even enabled fast dwarf to get to this point. My dwarves just ain't as fast as I remember them being. It's been a while. So I'm biased, Savenge. I have a bit of a problem with the alphanumerics personally, and that's not to say there's anything wrong with them. The problem is not with them, it's with me. I'm already a little... I tend to be a little dyslexic. Not bad enough that it really hinders me, but enough that looking at a table full of ASCII and trying to see the walls won't work for me real well. For me personally, a tile set absolutely is what I would recommend. If you're comfortable with old school roguelikes, like when I say old school here, I mean NetHack, Moria, Angband, in ASCII, with the literal characters, you know, the walls and the characters represented by letters and numbers, basically. If you're comfortable with that, then you might very well be comfortable with the default game no tile set vanilla out of the box. Otherwise, I'm going to suggest that that's a really acquired taste. See, now when I played Moria, it was on an Amiga version years back, later than the VAX VMS version that you're talking. And yeah, ASCII is like Neo looking over Cypher's shoulder at the Matrix. And I'm not saying the symbol set is necessarily the same. I can't tell you how closely the symbol sets map. Realistically, there's a limit on creatures here that's not present in those roguelikes. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and I'll save this in case we decide we ever want to come back to it, or if somebody wants me to export it or whatever. And I'll update the tile set, and we'll start a new game. We'll start from scratch, and I'll walk people through it. Now, overwhelmed if we just skate through it in a big hurry. Let me bounce out of here because I'm sure I have to bounce out of the game in order to update the tile set. Yeah, might as well update save games. If we go back, we can switch over to it. That save game with the broken raws is probably the one we were just on because I modified item availability. Most of them have been vanilla. But that one I changed things. Okay. Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play at this tile size there. Whew. Start with the new world. Always start at the beginning, right? Now I'll skip the settings talk, Sivenge. If you're curious about the settings and how to set up a world, you can jump back to the first video I did in this series over on YouTube, and I promise it'll cover it in more depth than you ever wanted to know. But let's copy one of these and we'll edit it and we'll call it Third Fort. And that covers our seeds. Let's look down through here. Minimum elevation, drainage, volcanism, mesh size, poles, titans, mineral scarcity. Let's turn that down just a hair. Just a little bit more common. I don't think we really care about the rest of this. We did add cavern water. Okay, that'll work. Save these. Rename this bad boy so we don't get confused. Save them again because we changed it. And we'll generate our world. Let history run for a bit. Give it about 100 years or so. That'll do. And we'll use that world as is. We're going to go ahead and make sure we always export so that we don't have to come back into Legends mode and do it. We can come back and do it if we have to, but we can do an export there. Go ahead and accept that world so it saves it. Belief systems. It saves belief systems now. That's good. Good stuff. Okay, Region 4. And we're going to open this in Fortress mode. Adventurer mode is for adventuring like you are a single adventurer in the world. And it is the same world you play in Fortress mode, right down to where you put your fortresses. You can't play the same world in two modes at the same time. That is to say, if you're playing as an adventurer, you don't have an active fortress. If you have an active fortress, you're not playing as an adventurer. They don't overlap. Legends mode is a little different. That's a like an information and review mode where you can go into your world, view the historical events, creatures, and so forth. Without tile sets, everything is represented by ASCII letters. So hills look like a green lowercase n, for example. Or grassland was probably a yellow dot, a period. And so if you imagine a square readout of characters where characters represent different things, well, Toadie's working on it, Essie. You might get your chance now. Don't count it out yet. You know, give him another 20 years, right? So there's a little bit of weirdness here with the font, which I assume they're doing to get around tile problems, tile limitations. Okay. So it runs our first 2 weeks in the world. Okay. So your question, Savenge, is does it look like this without a tile set? This actually, yeah, does kind of look a lot like it would look in ASCII, except that some of these characters have been smoothed or rounded or cleaned up in some way. But you can look at them and they are ASCII, albeit high ASCII characters in some cases. not the stuff you're going to hit on your keyboard here with the little, dwarven hill symbols or, But yeah, this is very much what it would look like without a tile set. This part. Now, the regular game is going to have sprites. So, not so much. But this part, yeah. We're going to come out here and enable Embark Assistant because DF Hack is awesome. And we're going to look for characteristics. I want a smaller region. Sorry, guys, I'm a little fumbly here. And we'll ignore the savagery. We want evil to be absent. Aquifer is absent. I think we've got him disabled, but maybe not. Minimum river is none. But maximum is brook. I don't mind a brook, but I don't want to deal with having to construct things around the stream in this case. Waterfall is, I don't want one. It's just an easy way to eat up your frame rate in my case. Flat is, not doesn't have to be. Clay is present. Sand, I'm curious if we can get clay and sand. Present, let's see if we can get clay, sand, flux. Let's shoot for the moon here. Coal. Minimum soil is, let's do shallow. Maximum soil is very deep. I like it when we have soil. Freezing, I don't care about. Blood rain is no. Syndrome rain is a definite no. Stuff that could cause blindness and, reanimation is no. Don't care without the minimum maximum adamantine. Oh, for minerals, let's see. Let's shoot for the moon here again. Let's go for iron. And then let's see if we can get gold. Actually, no. Let's see if we can do tin. And why not? Copper. Okay, because we'll probably get the gold anyway. Not going to specify economic. I'm not going to specify other minerals. Don't care about the biomes, although I would like, sand. We'll come back to that. This obviously is pretty narrow, so chances of us finding all this stuff is... You can actually... Okay, so bear in mind, I'm creating a world here, Savenge. There's actually a basic world creator where you set about 6 settings and fire it up and away you go. And for a new player who doesn't want to mess around, who just wants to jump into the game, I mean, it is free. If you just want to jump in and see what it's about, then by all means, that's how we learn. Um, Fire up a basic settings and, start a fortress. And that's pretty much how we all learn. Your first one isn't going to survive very long. The reality is, you as a new player are wholly unprepared for the world into which you are embarking. You, Jon Snow, know nothing. And that's not intended to be an insult. None of us knew anything when we started. None of us. Dwarf Fortress is a rigorous game, would be the polite way to put it. There's a lot of things to know about and to consider when you're creating a fortress. Let's see if we can find this settings here. I'm going to run this bad boy and see what it comes up with. It looks like it's going to find some. That's good. Okay, so there are some areas with our requested parameters. Let's see if any of them make us happy. That we can't embark on because it's somebody else's civilization. There's some areas here. Ooh, look at that. Right along the river. Got the minerals and everything we want. Relatively flat with kind of a slope to it. That might be worth coming back to. Can we get in over here? Nope. This is all somebody's civ here. Little tiny area. Not along the river, not along the river, not along the river. Oh, are we flat? Relatively flat. Right along the river. Just outside somebody else's house. Okay, let's do it. Let's go up here, get this bad boy. Put ourselves right there on the river with everything matching. We have a hill kind of at the bottom. We'll have some hilliness. That's okay, not too bad. Scorching with tropical grassland. Okay, so I kind of want something with trees or else sand. So we'll come back and look at that. That did look nice, though. Looks like there's an area up there. Probably also somebody's sieve. And then there's an area way down there at the bottom, looks like with the river. We'll take a peek at that first. Ew. Nothing. And then that's adjacent to, what is this, salt water probably? No, fresh water. Clean sand, very deep soil. Let's go take a peek. That might work. That'd be cute, wouldn't it? Do we can embark on a lake? Have a bunch of fisher dwarfs? Looks like we're only going to get the minerals maybe under the lake. Magnetite, tetrahedrite, gold, cassiterite. So we have bronze, iron, platinum, obviously copper, silver, and gold. Mineral wise, that's not very bad, actually. That's pretty good. Not huge amounts, but not inconsiderable. Not inconsiderable. Okay, so what else we got? Keeping in mind, I was pretty demanding with this. Oh, there's a spot up there at the top. I didn't even see at first. Ooh, even tastier. Forested. Also flat? Maybe not. Hmm. That is, though. Gold, silver, copper, tin, cassiterite, kaolinite. Oh, right. It's only a partial. I always forget it's if your upper left corner is in that square, then you have some of this. But in this case, it would have to be over here because the moment we leave, we lose all that. So in this case, ideal would be something like right here, and then maybe a little down here-ish. Which gets us everything pretty much we could possibly want. No aquifer, heavily forested, moderate, but no stream, unfortunately. So let's take a look around. We're close, real close. It's probably not flat, but oh, ooh, ooh, we can get flat right there. Zero hilliness. There's a small hill probably in the southwest corner. The brook will run up the center of the map, so we'll build right adjacent to the brook, and we'll have a nice pretty looking fort. We probably won't do a water moat because water moats can be swam in the current version. We could do it as long as we built the overhang like we did on the glacier fort to prevent climbers from swimming the moat and then climbing our walls. Well, this has sand. I mean, look at this thing. It's sand, iron, gold, silver, copper, zinc, tin, bismuth. I could even make bismuth bronze if we wanted to. Dolomite, marble, cassiterite, lignite, kaolinite. I've got just about everything we could possibly want, right down to porcelain at that point. This is a fantastic spot in terms of resources. If it were perfectly flat and adjacent to a volcano, I think I died and went to heaven. The best one I ever saw was this guy, and it may have been some sort of modified setting or some sort of embark glitch. He embarked in a spot that had a literal four-sided volcano, so it was like a world tile, and it went like not quite straight up, but it went up about 6 levels above the rest of the map, and the rest of the map was flat as could be with a brook. And at that point, you have everything you could possibly want. Well, it depends on what you want to emphasize. Keep in mind, Savenge, I'm looking for this is kind of an ideal spot. I mean, we've got just about everything in terms of resources I could possibly want for a development path. But when I look at amounts, keep in mind amounts matter. So the limonite here is iron ore. That's a tiny amount. The bismuthinite is so small you could miss it and never know where it was on the map. Even the sphalerite is fairly small. So if we embarked here, we're probably going to be dealing with tetrahedrite, which is copper and silver, and cassiterite, tin, to make bronze, and then having to do something else to get the limonite. So this spot that looks really great in terms of, hey, it has everything available, it does, but that doesn't mean it's available in the quantities you care about. And that's kind of what we're using here. If we embarked on this and just said, hey, it looks great, we'd have kind of boned ourselves in terms of iron. You can get iron by confiscating it from the bodies of your enemies, literally from their cold dead hands. You can trade for the iron by buying things off caravans and then melting them down. You can use a couple of exploits that currently exist to manufacture iron by making an item and then melting it down and getting more out of it than you put into it. But generally speaking, what I'm really looking for is a spot that we can mine the iron, smelt the iron like normal. Like say like normal human people, like dwarves, like sensible, not gamified people. So this is good, but not really great now that we've looked at the amount. So let's run down a little here and see if maybe we could get a spot with a little more of what we're after. That's better. I don't care that we don't have a huge amount of limonite, but I want some. And this still has some cassiterite, although not much. Most of our metal will be in sphalerite, which is zinc. So this is zinc, copper and silver, gold, iron, tin, and then bismuth to make bismuth bronze. But bismuthinite is fairly rare all the time. You're not going to find a whole lot of it no matter where you go usually. Um, Close. This is really kind of where we would want to be in terms of. And then let's look at sand. Yeah, sand, two different kinds. Uh, I don't think sandy clay loam counts as clay, but it might. It says it does. There are multiple biomes here. That might be why. If we have two biomes, we could be crossing over a little bit. So let's go a hair further west and south and try again. About the same. More tetrahedrite, less limonite. Yeah, all right. Let's go for it. This is probably less than we got in that first one, but I don't care. It'll work. Let's make sure we got sand and sand tan, and I think one of those, I think the sandy clay loam might count as clay. Didn't think it did, but Embark Assistant seems to think it does. I think it's matching the soil type and not determining whether it can properly be used as clay. So let's do one other thing. Let's size this up to a 4x4. That gets us a little more just in terms of raw mineral counts. Okay. Yeah, and that's really the case here. Clinidev is absolutely correct. What I'm trying to say myself is I want to be able to show you as many things as possible in one location. So what I'm looking for is access to everything. Normally, you're going to want one or two things. Maybe you want to start with a fortress with bronze and then, import your metal through goblinite, as it were. Um, or maybe you want to start off with iron and flux and go immediately into steel and you want a site for that. I think we can actually because we've got marble and limonite, and then we can make charcoal if necessary. This doesn't have coal on site, which is unfortunate, but we can live with that. Wood'll work. So we'll embark here. This will work. We'll go ahead and take this, and we'll prepare carefully because that's what we're doing. And we'll save it when we're done, and I'll have a couple embark profiles we can export. Okay, in this timeout, let's get our stuff underground a lot faster. Let's get ourselves underground a lot faster. And if I'd been smart, I wouldn't have gone above skilled in the first place, but that's okay. We can just drop it back down. Okay. We've got sand, so starting off with a glass maker is not a bad idea this time out. Like it was on the glacier where we didn't have any sand at all. Okay. And glass maker's on the second page, I believe. Nope, there it is at the bottom. I almost missed it. Okay. And that's us running out of points. So we'll come over to the items and remove everything like we always do. All of it gone, start to finish. There we go. Come back over, finish adding our skills to our dwarves here. And I gotta take this guy back down to skilled. Let's see. Stonecrafter, glassmaker, grower, weaponsmith, carpenter, mason. What am I missing here? Let's see. What do I want? I guess we could take a broker and make Sinjai happy, right? And then all of our dwarves need discipline out of the gate so that if anything does go horribly, horribly, horribly wrong, corpses get buried properly. Now, I don't think this is quite as necessary as it used to be, but it wouldn't be a bad idea. Oh no, we're not removing them permanently. No, no, no. We're going back. We're going back to add them. But I want to save this. So down here at the bottom, you can see a point readout. That's our embark points. That's set when you build the world. We set our world up to have, I think, 1500 and whatever the heck it is by default. Uh, you could, if you wanted to experiment with a new world and you're a new player and you're just starting out and you want to see how all the systems work, hell, you can give yourself 30,000 embark points when you start a world. And if you're starting and the whole point is just to figure the game out, take as much stuff as you want. I mean, take blocks, take anvils, take animals, take it all. Who cares? Build your fortress build out of just what you bring in the wagons. Who cares? The whole point at the point is to learn what you're doing, so it doesn't matter. By default, the game has a specific number of embark points to kind of establish a certain baseline quantity and value of items. Now, we'll circumvent that a little bit. As it turns out, there's a few ways you can kind of game the system, if you will. In particular, we will game the system for free barrels. We will game the system for free bags. Let's talk about how we're going to do that. So, you get to add all the different items. And Savenge, this is where you're going to kind of look at this and go, oh, holy crap, there's a lot of detail here. Let's look at just meat. This is different types of meat. Wombat and marmot and mountain goat and yak and let's see, peregrine falcon, Kia, great horned owl, eagle, cougar, worm, mongoose, rat, honey badger, warthog, bumblebee, honeybee, ant, beetle, snail, termite, slug, thrips, louse, tick, giant olm. I haven't gone through a tenth of the list. The point being is that there's an enormous quantity of different types of meat, and this is one of the ways in which we can game the system a little bit. If we add a wide variety of different types of meat, but we only add one of each, in essence, what will happen is it will provide one barrel for each type. And since we're not adding a quantity to the barrel, what we end up with is a supply of extra barrels, one per food item, if you will. Now, ideally, we want to avoid taking things like the bobcat intestines because they're a little more expensive. So we're bringing cheap meat. The cheapest you're going to get is 2 points. So we're going to bring a huge quantity, say, of those, right? And in that fashion, we will save points. Now, I'm not going to take it to the theoretical limit. You could run this out theoretically to where you are literally taking 20 or 40 different kinds of meat, specifically to get 20 or 40 extra barrels. Now, I'm not that obsessed about min maxing, but if you're one of those kinds of folks, don't worry, Dwarf Fortress has you covered. They will. That's the other thing. Uh, our wombat stuff here will stack, so we're got to go back and pick out different kinds. And one of the ways you can get around that is fish. And I think the fish don't stack if it's male and female, but don't quote me because they've actually got it differentiated by gender. And apparently it matters whether your pond turtle is male or not. But we can go through and do fish as well. And fish tend to have a decent variety as well. So we'll get rid of all of the wombat stuff except one. We'll get rid of the hoary marmot stuff except one. Everybody can eat marmot brain. Why not? Now, frankly, that's plenty for me. If, like I said, if you're wanting to optimize your min maxing, you can go back and you can pick out 20 or 40 different kinds of fish and meat, and you'll get that many different barrels. Milk is another example. Milk has 1 unit per barrel, for example, and you can get a different barrel per different kinds of milk. So you've got cow milk and yak milk and horse milk and pig milk and sheep milk and so on and so forth and so such. Now, there's another trick you can pull with drinks. I want to say drinks stacked to 5 or 10 in a barrel, and so you can go one past the barrel capacity to get a unit of drink in a barrel by itself. And I'm not really going to sweat that too much. We're going to bring as much drink as we feel like we need, and that's going to be the end of it. One thing you always want to bring, and unless you are a player after a real challenge, you always bring an anvil. You can do no metal work whatsoever without an anvil. Those of you wondering how you create an anvil without an anvil is you don't. Um, you import an anvil or you don't have one. There is no recipe in the vanilla game to create an anvil without an anvil, which of course does beg the question where the first anvil came from. Just bring one with you and you'll never have to argue with that existential philosophical question. Okay. In addition, we're going to bring plenty of seeds, although I'm only adding one right now. We're going to come back and augment quantities here in a minute. We're just kind of adding the different different categories of things that we're going to bring with us. Some of these seeds are edible, some of them are not. We'll bring at least one dye seed with us so we can make some dye plants later. Normally, I wouldn't worry about digging implements. In this case, let's see if we have coal before I do anything else. That's the one thing we didn't have in the glacier fort. Our civilization had no access to coal. Oh, that's a good sign. We've got bituminous coal everything, so we've got bituminous coal. That's awesome because this is the highest conversion rate for stones to bars of coal. Um, lignite is a little lower and wood is lower still. So that's fantastic. Let's add some ores. One unit of coke to prime our cycle, and we can use that to make coal into coke and then make more coke that way, and then use the coke to make bars and to make weapons and so forth. If you are embarking in an evil area, I recommend bringing a few picks along as well because you can immediately dig yourself in. Our area is not particularly yeah, your skills and goods both count against you in terms of points, as well as not just goods, but your animals you bring with you. The only animals you're going to get for free are the 2 draft animals who are randomly selected to be pulling your wagon, and then anything else you want beyond those 2 draft animals in an empty wagon, you bring with you. You can arrive with nothing if you want a challenge build. I've seen people who start out with a fortress with nothing in it, pick berries for the first 3 seasons, waiting on the dwarven caravan to arrive, immediately raid the dwarven caravan, disassemble the wagon to get 3 logs to build a trade depot, kill and eat or kill and butcher the draft animals, and then harvest picked berries to survive. Okay, let's see, what else do we need here? Let's see. Probably need to bring some thread. I like to bring, even though we're embarking in a wooded area, I normally like to bring a couple of logs with me. But this is heavily forested. We'll skip it today. Stone. I like humble gabbro for my building material to start with. Oops, down the other way. Skip the metal bars. Now, the reason I'm not bringing metal bars is that let's look at bronze. We're going to make bronze. I brought malachite and cassiterite, and we can use those ores directly to make like 8 bronze bars. So a unit of malachite costs you 6 points, and a unit of cassiterite, that's 10, costs you 6 points. And let's say you're really, really not thrifty, and you bring a unit of coke to immediately fire that off just because you can. That's 10. So overall, you spent 22 points, And from that, you get somewhere between, I think it's 4 and 8 bars. I can't remember if it's 4 or 8, one or the other. I want to say it's 4 bars of each metal from ore. So normally, since you'd get 4, but because this is bronze and you're doing it from ore, you get 8. You get 4 for the copper, and 4 for the tin. So you actually get more. To bring 8 bronze bars would cost us 200 points versus the 22 we're spending. Oh no, Glacier Fort's still alive and kicking. We've got a new player in the stream, and I figured I'd been kind of teasing the tile set. Nobody objected, so I changed it over to a new fort. It's still there. I've got the save game. I can export it if anybody really wants to play it. It's well past mature at this point. In order to get the pit dug in a reasonable time frame, I actually enabled fast dwarf. It was getting to the point where getting things done was taking days and days of stream time at that point. Likewise, digging implements, you need a bronze bar to make a pick, and then the pick is worth 110 for itself, so I could 22 versus that, and I get potentially 8 picks is 880 points of gear for the cost of 22. So, in general, if you've got the time when you first arrive, it's better to have the raw materials. If you're embarking in an evil area with reanimating undead and blood that will turn your guys to undead, that rains out of the sky, and deadly dust from the clouds, and God knows what all, thralling syndromes or whatever, at that point you probably bring the finished goods because you need to get your shit underground. You ain't got time to be making picks. Well, part of it's my fault. I tend to dig out these lovely looking but slightly larger than they need to be circular areas. And if we save ourselves some pathfinding space, I think we'll do better longer. Maybe not much longer, but longer. I was told there would be red sand at this party. I want red sand. So we're skipping, all the armor we could conceivably be bringing. I will bring some gypsum plaster because that's harder to come by. The quick lime we can get once we're set up and good. Extracts we're going to skip. Crafts, toys, instruments, tools, cages, barrels, buckets, same thing. Goblets, flasks, quivers, all these are finished goods. Bags, we'll cheat and get those from the sand. Thread is what I would bring in order to make cloth. So we're going to take some sheep wool thread, and then we're going to take some uh, and the reason we're taking the different types of thread is that if we get dwarves who have a strange mood and want to build an artifact, then we're going to potentially need different thread for that, depending on whether they want plant thread or wool thread or silk thread. And lye is cheap, so we're going to bring some, even though it's not particularly valuable per se right off the bat. That'll let us make soap early on if we want. Okay, let's talk quantities. I want to bring about 40 meat to start. It'll take at least, or 40 meat and fish. It will take at least a couple of seasons probably to get dug in, farming up, producing at speed with a farmer who can focus on it. By then, we'll have started to get migrants, and we want to make sure we'll have enough food to last us at least until we can really get by. So I'm going to increment these all to about, say, 5, and that's probably more than the 40 I just said, so we'll cut back at that point. Close enough. Now we'll come down here to the wine and ale. We'll increase that. We want to make sure I usually bring about 20 of each, but if we find out we're short of points, we'll come back and revisit it. Okay, that looks pretty good to start, but we haven't bought animals yet. We need to do that too. It's cheaper to buy them untrained. War animals are more expensive than regular dogs. You could train them on site, so there's no point really in buying the war animal version unless you just really need them right out of the gate. Again, if you're embarking an evil area, well, maybe you want the dogs. Of course, if the undead kill the dogs and you're in a reanimating evil area, then the dogs come back as undead dogs and your problem has just gotten that much bigger. If you're in a thralling area, then your dogs get exposed to some thralling syndrome and they become thralls instead of undead, and then they come after you and they kill you, and your problem has just gotten bigger. So I'm not really sure what the point of actually having war dogs in the list is, but if you've got lots and lots of embark points to spend and you don't want to worry about animal training, well, you can start them off as war trained and call it a day. You're going to want to bring at least 2 males to avoid the issue where sometimes the dogs just ain't really into that whole lovin' feeling. Let's see. Let's go down here. We'll skip pigs and sheep for now. We'll come back to them. Let's do peahens and peacocks again. And we've still got points. 200 is pretty good, actually. We're really close to the spot I would normally want to be at. And while it's not ideal, I would do 1 boar, 1 sow, 1 sheep, and 1 ewe. But we're a few points short of the 51s. We'll come back up here and give up some of the rum because, as anyone who's ever been a pirate can tell you, the rum is always gone first. That gives us the points we need there, and we can come down here and get a point of sand. And I think that's everything we want. Let's review. We've got our meat, plenty extra over the 40 I recommended. We've got our booze, more than the 60 I think I brought last time. We've got plenty of seeds for farming, our malachite and cassiterite and coal for our item production, coke to start our cycle off, gabbro so we can build fire-safe buildings right out of the gate, sand for later because we get the bags for free, gypsum plaster because it's a pain in the butt to come across, yarn, thread, and thread because we want to have them available if we need to make cloth for moods, lye because it's cheaper than actually bringing the logs, I'm pretty sure, and if not, it saves you the effort, and it comes in a barrel. So better to bring this than the wood if you're going to make lye. That will let us make soap right out of the gate. I don't think I brought as many dogs this time, so our war dog production will be a little slower out of the gate, but again, not really a problem there. We are bringing in grazers right out of the gate, so we'll be able to make wool. I could theoretically shave off, ha ha ha, some of our sheep wool yarn, but I think we're just going to run with it for now. Let's see. Sow and boar gives us access to pigs, which again don't require grazing space. Peahens and peacock gives us eggs. We've got 2 males and multiple females of those animals where it is reasonably cost effective and prudent to do so. Not on the sheep, not on the pigs. They're too expensive to carry multiple males and multiple females. You do have to start with an anvil if you want to do metalwork right out of the gate and you don't want to trade for an anvil later. If you're willing to suffer, if you're willing to suffer, if you're willing to suffer, no, I'm just kidding. Dwarf Fortress is like your total game if you're willing to suffer. You can go without an anvil, raid the first dwarven caravan, and maybe they have an anvil for you in autumn. You will do no metalworking before that point if you don't have an anvil. It's very unlikely you get a caravan prior. I don't think you can get a caravan prior to the dwarf caravan in autumn. Maybe if you embarked right next to a human civilization, they visit you first, but I don't think so. And so, yeah, you still have to have an anvil to make an anvil. Realistically, I think what needs to happen there is there needs to be a smelter job to cast anvils. Basically, you can build a smelter without an anvil. You can't build any of the forges without an anvil. So it makes sense for the anvil creation job to be in the casting sort of role, and that would be typically a smelter, basically. So you would melt the iron down, make bars, then melt the bars down and cast them into an anvil, and then you'd have your anvil. Right, that's exactly right. Because you can't build a forge without the anvil, how do you make an anvil to make more anvils? And the answer is a wizard did it. Um, oh, I know what we didn't do and I really wanted to do is we didn't upstep the leggings for chain leggings. Oh, bother. Oh well, we'll let it go. I'm not sure if that's safe to edit after the fact, so we're going to let it slide. Mastered chambers. No, no, no. Who knows what we call our fort? No suggestions? Let's run random a few times, see what we get. Unfortunately, I can't hold down the random key, so oh no, I don't name my fort after what we're going to do. It's random or I build or I have a specific name in mind. See, I'm okay with the role play that they're escaped convicts or traitors fleeing justice. That's kosher for me. I get that. But it's one of those things where they still should be able to make an anvil. Now it might take them some effort to get the ore or the metal to do it, but once they had the metal and the stone, they should be able to make an anvil without having to have a forge. So we've been running random for a while, and I'm kind of paying attention to stream chat, and I'm not actually paying attention to the screen here. So we're going to just okay. There's a name somebody suggested. Sansom, that works. See how easy that was. I call for a suggestion. Somebody finally give me one. It's a pity we can't use the. Yeah, see that works. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Okay, so we're done. Let's see what our dwarf group is named. The Angelic Gates. Okay, let's let that run. That's good. I usually don't mess with that. Let's save this as day's the 23rd, isn't it? Yeah, day 23. Okay, here we go. I normally don't modify their symbol either, but if you're curious, apparently the handle of lanterns is what we're going to end up with. I don't see a way to random them. I don't see a. No. No, wait. Okay, yeah. All right, hang on. I don't think we can get biting. Devouring is close. And that's intentional before you ask. That's entirely intentional. And it is no more nonsensical than any other dwarven artifact. Okay. No, how do I... Oh, we're done. Yes, there we go. Okay. So now our symbol is created. Not sure if the symbol is included in the embark profile, but we'll just assume it is, and I'll save it. Let's double check, make sure I've got everything. We've got our anvil, our seeds, minerals, meat, drink, dogs, animals, birds. Real Noah's Ark in here, isn't it? Okay, that looks good. Let's do it. Let's find out what I'm missing after we arrive.
You know that 9 out of every 10 embarkments end in complete disaster. I can't wait to see what awaits us here.
All right, before the cougar men get hungry. Feeling good about this. Look at those pitching a fit while we're saving here. Okay. Let's zoom out and take a look here. This is our dwarven wagon surrounded by our animals and dwarves. Our brook, some murky ponds dot the landscape. Trees, these brown log looking things. If I go up in the world, if you think of like horizontal slices like a skyscraper, that's how the world is defined. So here's underground, in the pools themselves or in the brook, above them at ground level, above ground level, and we can keep going up through the trees as we go up their branches, their tops, their tips, now we're up in the sky above them, and we're looking down on the tops of the trees. And now we're completely high enough that it fades out below a certain number of levels. Now we have on a multi-level display. Normally in the vanilla game you don't see all these levels. If you're going to install Dwarf Fortress, I highly recommend installing the lazy noob pack that I've installed. You can, Clinidev probably has a link on him right now. If you're on Windows, snag Paradexis Errant's lazy noob pack. Install that, and you're in good shape. Let's zoom in here a little bit. Alright, let's get a comfortable depth with the new tile set here. That looks... For screenshots, of course, we can go right up on top of them and get all the detail, right? But I can't play at that level of resolution. I need to be able to see more of the screen. It drives me nuts to be that confined. Okay, so let's clear that out. Pause the game. And let's see here. Oh, you know what we didn't bring, and I'm glad we brought Coke. We'll have to be real careful about using it properly here. We didn't bring an axe, so if we're not careful with our Coke, we're not going to have any way to cut trees at all. Okay, let's build some workshops. Now, it should be the case that we've got plenty of soil to dig our farm level in, so we'll probably just do one farm floor this time rather than trying to split it up across multiple floors. And before I forget, let's connect up our therapist and turn on architecture for everyone. Okay. Now that everybody can do the architecture necessary to build our smelter and forges. Need an architect still. Come on, guys. Get with it. There we go. There we go. Boy, they are pretty up close, aren't they? Zoom right in on the guy. Fantastic detail at this level. Just wish I could actually, wish I had enough screen real estate to play it at that depth. We have exactly 1 unit of coke. If our first job is not this thing, we stall our cycle. We have no fuel. Since we have no axes, we can't cut wood. Since we can't cut wood, we can't use those to make charcoal. That means we have no way to generate fuel. No fuel, no picks, no axes, no way to do any metal work. We're stuck on the surface with no way to get building materials until autumn. So yeah, there's a specific order we've got to do this in if we want to make sure we don't screw it up. But 1 unit of coke, and then we can start in on the bronze, because at that point what will happen is that 1 unit of coal will make something like, 8 units of coke, or coal, 8 units of coke, and then you can turn around and use that 1 unit of that to make all the bronze, and then turn around and make more coke out of the coke. You see how it works. Once the cycle is primed, it's hard to run it dry until you run out of coal. But we probably don't have anybody doing the furnace operation right now, so we need to enable that too. Now, if we needed to make charcoal, we'd also need to enable wood burning. We don't have to mess with that, but if you did, that's what you'd have to enable for the wood burning to make the charcoal. And then once you had charcoal, maybe furnace operating for the smelting as well. In this case, we just want to make sure we get the smelting done. We're sitting on the surface, and right now we're absolutely defenseless. Our dwarves have no military skill, no military weapons to use, nothing. We're sitting around with our thumbs in our butt waiting to make materials to actually do stuff with. This is a fairly minimalistic start in terms of defenses, immediate action. There's a lot of waiting on stuff to get made right at the beginning. Now, it'll take off fairly quickly. Once we've got bars, it's straight into picks for the digging and axes for the mining or for the wood, and away you go. I snagged it recently, so I'm not sure if the version I got is more recent than the version in the pack or the same. A few picks for the digging or the fighting. Everybody here has mining, so in terms of pick use and melee, they're actually pretty good. Once we have picks, we basically do have some way to defend ourselves. And it won't take these guys long to crank out the picks. Okay, so now we've got picks and axes coming off. What next? Well, first we clear the area around us because we don't run into trees dropping over dead and dropping logs through the roof of our fortress, basically. So we'll remove all the trees in the area around us. And we don't need the whole map. This is going to be an enormous amount of wood right here. This is plenty to start with. Now, we won't be able to do that until the bronze battle axes roll off. But we can do that. Plan for the fortress. I don't know, long term? I mean, tonight we're not going to get everything done, obviously. But, because we're already at 11:14, so realistically I've already run past my 3 hours I normally run. Plan for the fortress is probably, we'll get to where we've built in an obsidian caster. We won't have to do ice drops for water. We'll have ample wood, so we don't need to depend on the caverns for trees like we did in the glacier fort. We have sand, and I haven't really demonstrated the glass industry, so we'll probably take advantage of the ability to weaponize glass for traps. And I'll demonstrate a proper entrance for a change. We'll use glass traps for it, but I'll explain why once we get to that point. Even with the changes, I suspect they're going to be sufficiently effective. After that, I think maybe this will be the first fort where we do a little exploration of the raids and tribute demands, and we'll see if we can't get some other civilizations. Yeah, if we've got, hopefully we've got rope reed on site, in which case I'll show you the surface farming underground trick, and then you can use the rope reed 4 seasons a year indoors in safety to make just oodles and oodles of plant cloth to make your clothing work. We'll get there, but probably not tonight. Okay, let's see what we've got in terms of, did we get our picks and battle axes? How far along are we here? Don't want to lose track of how many things we've got. 1 bronze battle axe. That means we have 1 guy who can do tree cutting at the moment. Now, at the moment, the carpenter isn't being a whole lot of use. So we'll switch him over to wood cutting. And he'll run around slapping trees down. The brown items landing on the ground are the logs. Bigger, taller trees, more logs. If you zoom out, so you're above ground level a little higher, you'll actually see the trees disappearing and the dwarves becoming visible below them. Okay, let's check in on our metalsmith again. Plenty of axes now. He's going to start working on the picks, and we'll need the picks for excavating our fortress. We'll let our carpenter just keep on running with the axe for now. Because what I'm hoping is somebody's going to take off on that whole get it canceled, did we? Nope, nope. Got plenty of coke now at this point, we should have. So we're using the coke at this point to make something else, but there's plenty of coke. We're making bronze here because you can see the cassiterite and the malachite, and they're tasked. So they're manufacturing more bronze, but they're alternating. More coke, more bronze. It only takes one coke to make the bronze. And each time we use a coal to make more coke, we're getting huge quantities of coke, like, I don't know, 8, 10. I'd have to look what the actual amount is. Long story short, we will run out of coal long before we use up the available coke. We will have plenty of bronze available to make weapons or armor if we choose. Items out of metal, whatever we choose. For initially, we can make some chains to get traction benches and wells up quickly, make buckets, that kind of thing. But initially, we want to make sure our wealth is in the form of pointy metal objects. Where is our... Really? You guys need a temple and you haven't even dug in yet? Okay, have at it. You've got a temple. Pray it up. Then get back to work. Surely we had... Oh, maybe he canceled the pick job. Ah, that's the problem. And he'll come run along, grab the bronze, grab a unit of bronze, grab a unit of coke, make us an item, and then grab a unit of bronze, grab a unit of coke, and repeat the process. And he'll just be cranking out the weapons. When we get to armor smithing, we don't have anybody skilled in it, so our items will be a little lower quality, normal quality, basically. There is no poor quality when it comes to dwarf manufacture. Normal quality bronze armor. But we'll have higher quality weapons. And our carpenter has just about finished up, it looks like, so let's get him working on something more productive, like beds. Beds can only be made from wood. There is not such a thing as a stone bed, so make sure you have wood to make beds for your dwarves. You're going to need them. Now we've cleared a fairly substantial area here. That's more than enough for now. There's a couple, I see there's a big tree here that hasn't been cut. There's probably a couple little ones here I'm missing that I'm losing in the tile set somewhere. But no worries. We've got the majority of it, and if our carpenter chooses this moment to go on carpentering instead of doing that, that works too. Actually, I'm wondering if these aren't trees that have been marked here, all these browned ones. Yeah, I don't see them anywhere else on the map, so yeah, I'm guessing that's all of the ones we've marked. Interesting. And we'll send out several dwarves now, just by tasking them with that labor. And now we've got a group of dwarves cutting. Now let's take a look and see how we're doing for picks. Plenty of picks now. Good, good, good. These guys who are wood cutting, the mining labor shuts off because you can't be both at once. We want to turn off the mining labor for our weaponsmith. We don't want him wandering away to do this. And we want to turn off the mining labor for our planter because we're going to have him focused on furnace operating in a moment. He can't really farm, so that's basically what we're going to have him do. That'll get our miner working. We only need one pick. Once the trees are finished, then I'm going to switch those guys over to mining, and we'll have them dig. By then, we should have an ample supply of bronze and coke. We can keep our weaponsmith busy, turn off the bronze manufacturing job, and just make coke until we run out of coal, and then switch our weapons, everybody off but our weaponsmith, and have them all mining. Speaking of mining, let's start digging. We've cleared the trees from this area. We have a sufficient space in this area, I believe, to build in. Let's see. And because I know what the world gen settings were, I know I gave us 15 levels below surface level. So we should be clear all the way down to there without hitting a cave. That'll get our miner working, and you'll see him start designating these areas and start cutting stairs into the ground. Digging down into the earth where we have up-down staircases. Now this staircase goes both ways, so you can see it kind of goes up, and then there's a down behind it. So this allows our dwarves to move up and down through the earth, if you will. This is like a vertical elevator almost, only made out of stairs. A stairwell, but you've never seen one that's like 9 by 9. Now, nobody right now will make armor. We don't have to be tasked with that labor. So we'll come over to the therapist again. We'll turn on, for our weaponsmith, we'll turn on armoring, so he does both jobs now. In fact, we'll turn on all the smithing jobs, because that realistically is what we want him doing long term anyway. If any smithing comes up, he'll do it. Our miner continues to dive through the earth. Our carpenter is producing beds. Once he's done with those 10 beds, we'll have enough to get our starter set of dwarves basically a place to stay, and then we'll be in good shape. Still in dirt? Yes. Oh, lovely. Dirt all the way down to here. Perfect. So, yeah. And that will give us a sizable pasture space. We don't have to clear it just yet. And we'll have an area where we can cut into the surface and surface farm one level down. We'll use flooring or a stockpile to prevent tree growth in this area. Okay, that gives our dwarves something to do. We've got to let them run for a bit. We've only got the one miner, so he's got lots more to do than he knows what to do with. I killed the access to the big floor. I didn't want him to kill himself, basically. He won't, but he's the only guy doing the labor. It'll take him forever to get through anything other than what I've got him doing just to get the vertical done. We could get all of these other guys doing now that we've got the wood cutting done. So back over here, our stone crafter is on wood cutting. We will take him off and leave him on furnace operation. And now we've got 2 people running the furnace in case somebody needs to stop. Neither one of these guys can do anything at the moment anyway. Everybody who was on wood cutting we'll put back on mining, except for the carpenter. We can leave him on wood cutting. That gives us 3 miners. And we will cancel all the jobs that are not coke to run through the coal as fast as possible. Not that it matters, we're already done. Apparently we've also found iron already, so yay! Since we've already done that, and we don't need furnace operators anymore for the moment, we're going to switch these guys over to mining, and now we have 5 miners. Now, I know I haven't named the starting 7, and I need to do that for those folks who've donated, but we'll get to that. We probably won't get to it on this stream. I'll probably have to take care of it when we set out next time, as it is already 11:30. Which brings me to the end of my stream and what I came to talk about today. If you look down below the stream, you'll find a link to the Extra Life campaign that I am representing. This is a charity drive for children's hospitals here in the United States. None of the money collected here goes to me. All of it, every dime, goes to kids who need it for healthcare. It matters to kids who need it. 40 years ago, I myself was a patient at one of these hospitals here locally. Without it, I might not be here where I am today doing this broadcast for you. Please, if you have the time and you have the means, take a moment. Donate what you can. It's much appreciated. We will resume our stream tomorrow with the same tile set, with the same fort, exactly where we are here, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, just like we did tonight. If you have any questions, now's a perfect, ideal time to ask. I'm happy to run through anything I did or explain anything I may have glossed over previously. Yes, there are artifact beds of other materials, but you can't count on artifacts for your massive dwarves. You might get 1 bed. You might not get any. And realistically, if you got more than 1, that would be phenomenally lucky. If you got 2, that would be awesomely lucky. It's possible to get artifact beds. It's not something I would ever depend on. Anybody else have any questions before I go? We'll save the game here. Hey, anytime, guys. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Tune in then. We'll continue right where we left off. Got a whole lot of things to cover before we've covered a game of Dwarf Fortress.